welcome. Thank you for joining us. We want to just really thank you so much for joining us tonight and continuing to stay engaged in this exciting journey. I'm Meredith Pettit. I'm the Parks and Recreation Director here with the City of Corvallis. And on behalf of our entire project team that you see on the screen and some of us behind the scenes, including staff, consultants, and of course our dedicated advisory committee, I'm really thrilled to share with you the final design concept for the long anticipated Corvallis Bike Park. The design that we're unveiling tonight is the result of thoughtful collaboration and reflects the project goals, community values, and the mission of Parks and Recreation. This effort has brought together a wide range of expertise and perspectives to create something that we believe Corvallis can truly be proud of, something that will have a positive impact on all of us here today and for generations to come. As we look forward to the future of this new community space, I want to really take a moment to sincerely thank all of you out there on the call tonight, and all of you who've been engaging in this process to date. From the very beginning, your voices have really helped shape this project through the public meetings, through surveys, one-on-one conversations. You've really shared a lot of information that has really helped the project team dial in this final concept design. We're really excited to share it with you tonight. From my perspective, this park is not just trails and jumps. It's really about connection and about community. And we're just really excited to see what it can do in terms of a public space that helps develop confidence in youth. It helps provide a place where families can come together and play, and really creates a space where people feel welcome and like they belong. And then, of course, we're going to go through some of our project goals, but other primary components of the design really were rooted in being a park that is safe, being a park that is inclusive. It's going to be challenging and it's going to be fun. So whether we're talking about young riders or seasoned mountain bikers or somebody who's just coming out for the first time, I think that this is going to be a space where everybody can really enjoy. So thanks for believing in us. Thanks for being part of the process. And we can't wait to show it to you tonight. So a little bit about how tonight's going to go. The project team will guide you through a presentation that provides an overview of the planning process so far to date. This is our third public meeting. So we'll briefly recap what we heard from the earlier sessions, provide context again about the site, its location, its opportunities, its constraints, and walk through the key steps in the design process that brought us to tonight's final concept. So for those of you who've attended some of the previous meetings, some of it may sound familiar. But we are repeating portions intentionally so that anyone joining us for the first time or watching the recording later gets that full picture as we wrap up this stage of the public outreach process. And we will be taking questions. We're going to try to hold those to the end of the presentation. So please, as we go, please feel free to use the chat feature. We will be monitoring that. Type in your questions as they come to mind. If you're unable to use the chat feature, you will have an opportunity to use the raise your hand feature in Zoom, again, during the Q&A portion at the end. So if you think of something as the team is sharing the slides, feel free to jot it down. Again, use that chat feature or jot it down next to you so you don't lose that thought. So without further ado, we're going to pass it over to the project team, starting with Travis North, our park planner.
Thank you, Meredith. Thanks everyone for joining us. Public outreach for this project has been great. I think we got 40 people at our first open house and over 70 people at our second open house. Those are great numbers. Everybody was engaged with the project for both of those for the entirety of the meeting. And we got some really great data as Taj will go through. From that, we had over 300 people respond to the public survey. So you guys have been wonderful. If you're not familiar with the chat function, just hover your mouse kind of over the presentation. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see the chat. You just click on that. Brian Bishop from Walker Macy is tracking those. So As Meredith said, you can throw them in that chat function as soon as you think of it, or jot it down and raise your hand. And I believe you just hover over the react button to raise your hand when we get towards the end. So next slide. So as Meredith said, we are just kind of start from the beginning here. So the project site, as we all know, is located between Chip Ross Park and Timber Hill Natural Area. Um, when we started about trying to find a site, the minimum site size you need for a bike park is about 5 acres, right? And so we quickly realized that there's probably no perfect property out there, right? Everything kind of comes with its advantages and disadvantages. And one of the big advantages of this site is it is located at Chip Ross Natural Area and between Timber Hill Natural Area. And so we love to get compound value out of our projects. So, with this one, not only do we get to create a new bike park, but we get to improve the access for Chip Ross Natural Area and Timber Hill Natural Area and develop some amenities that, in this case, connect into a regional trail network. So with the idea being you can come to the bike park and increase your biking skills and then take those skills out to the larger trail network. One of the downsides that we noticed and people have brought up is the site is a little isolated from the urban core, right? So ideally, it would have a little better vehicle access. It's hard to find 5 acres in the urban core, particularly at a price that the Parks Department can afford. But I do want to point out that Kings Boulevard, Walnut Boulevard, which is to the south. 29th Street is being extended, and this is actually Kings Boulevard. So future transportation plan, as that property develops between Walnut and Leicester, Kings will get extended, and Kings will eventually extend to Leicester. So although there's not great vehicle access right now, in the future on a larger planning horizon, there'll be improved access to the site. And as Taj and Chris will kind of speak to, there's some proposed pedestrian connections from 29th Street as well. So, and then the probably the biggest thing we kind of realize that I think people tend to forget about, one of the main criteria for finding a site is finding a willing seller. So, our real estate agent, Tim Rist, I believe Tim is on, knocked on quite a few doors for us, and this is one of the only property owner who was willing to say yes. And so we feel it's a great site. Honestly, if we rank the sites that we inquired about, this one would be top one, two, three. So next slide. So just so everybody kind of understands, kind of how the project team is set up and the design structure. So we have Walker Macy from Portland landscape architecture firm, and Chris Bernhardt from C2. Chris designs bike parks all over the world. We're thrilled to have both of them on. We have Parks and Recreation staff, obviously, on the project team. We have I believe, a 9-person advisory committee. 3 of those members were elected through a public process. The remaining 6 were allied professionals who we reached out to and thought would be good to have on the project team. And then, of course, the public outreach, which I've already mentioned. So if anybody's wondering kind of how the advisory committee works, is we generally meet with them 2 or 3 weeks before we do our public open house and kind of use them as a sounding board. The first meeting, we kind of just pick their brains of what they wanted to see up here. They help us set the project goals. And then for the second open house, we had proposals of what we were going to show, and they helped us refine those. And they did the same with this one as well. So all those 4 categories are you could kind of look at them at data points, right? And everybody has their own knowledge and their own data and their own wants and desires. And it's a balance of all 4, right? So, we did a public survey. There's nothing there that gives us the absolute data point that we would just go with and ignore the other 3 or vice versa. So all those data points going to get kind of tumbled up into the site constraints and the project budget, right? So Walker Macy has to work through the site. It's a steep site. It does have some challenges. It presents some opportunities, and then we have to marry that with the project budget. And somewhere in there, we get a final design. So we're presenting the final design concept tonight. We think it'll be close, but once Walker Macy and Chris get into the site design and marrying the concept to the site constraints and the project budget, it will change probably a little bit. Timeline, we are in the planning and design phase there at the beginning. Uh, this meeting will almost can kind of conclude the public portion of that. And we will use that to go into land use approval. We have a county land use application that we'll have to put in for. Once we secure that, we can purchase the property, and then we'll go into design refinement with Chris and Brian and Taj and the Walker Macy team, kind of working out the design details in detail. Spring is the grant funding application. So Oregon State Parks and Rec has a couple different grants. One of the big ones that we're putting in for is due in the spring. We hope to secure somewhere between 600,000 and $1 million for this project. And then if we're successful with that, depending on how all the paperwork gets done and how fast it gets done, we could possibly be looking at a beginning construction in summer or fall of 2026, or a grand opening in 2027. So if you're not familiar with government, that might seem like a long time. If you are familiar with government, I always know when people are and when they aren't, because if they are, they say, wow, that's really blazing, because that is a very fast project timeline. So you've seen a lot of us in the planning and design phase, and we'll kind of go into hiding through these other phases, right? There won't be as much public outreach. We'll use our website, our social media, to kind of provide updates to the community at key points in time. But just because you don't hear from us, don't think that the project's gone away, or we're not moving with it. It's just the point of the project where we kind of have to put our noses to the ground and pen to paper, and do the work behind the scenes. So key considerations that kind of helped inform this project from the start, and again, we're working with the advisory committee to come up with this. Programming, what program skills training sessions, social gatherings, and events will we need to provide to attract skilled riders and new riders to the park? Lacey Moore, who many of you know, is our rec coordinator. She puts together a lot of our recreation programs that are so popular. So I know her mind is teeming with ideas on events that we can host up there. We've had some outreach events as well towards that to kind of pick the public's mind on that. So site amenities, what amenities will provide the most benefits to the broadest range of user groups? That's not just for the bike park. That's for the bike park, but also for Chip Ross and Timber Hill Natural Area and the trails beyond. Like, what do we need to provide to get that compound value and attract people to the bike park and Chip Ross and Timber Hill? Opportunities for progression. What bike park features are needed to create opportunities for people to incrementally improve their bike skills from beginner to advanced? I think you'll see when Chris is presenting. I think we nailed that one. Just so that if you don't know anything, you can start at the bike park, and once your skills progress, you can go all the way through. So accessibility, what site amenities and bike park amenities are needed to enhance accessibility and reduce barriers to biking? Again, I think Chris and Taj will talk to that later, but that has been top of mind for us. Environmental, how do we protect and enhance the natural environment that makes this site unique and inviting? And I think we all know it's just a beautiful site. You really couldn't have a more beautiful site, and that has been key from the outset of how do we marry the site design into that environmental context, and how do we improve how do we improve that environment up there and the habitat, the oak savanna habitat? Maintenance and durability. What is needed to create a bike park that can be easily maintained and durable? People always ask us when we go to create new parks, how are you going to maintain it? So I think you'll see later in the presentation, Chris and Taj have some great ideas on that, but that has been at the forefront as well. Next slide, Taj.
All right. Thanks, Travis. So coming off of the city's key considerations, we've worked with the advisory committee and the public to establish a clear set of project goals, and these have been extremely important in guiding us through the design process. So for those that aren't able to read, I just want to read these out to you because these have been essential guidelines. So goal number 1 for the project is to create a destination hub that enhances the multitude of recreational opportunities in the surrounding area and provides connections to the surrounding regional trail network. Goal number 2 is to ensure the bike park supports riders with a wide range of abilities and skill levels, facilitates skill progression, promotes trail etiquette, safety, and resource stewardship. Goal 3 is to enhance access to the site and accessibility within the site, including ADA accessible amenities and adaptive mountain biking trail features. Goal number 4 is to protect and enhance the site's environmental assets to create an immersive recreational experience. And goal number 5 is to create a bike park that is fun, safe, and enjoyable place to visit for all Corvallis residents. Next slide. So we want to run through with you and give you a recap of our first 2 public meetings. These were absolutely fundamental in landing where we are today. So April 24th feels like a lifetime ago. We met with you the first time and had a great turnout. This is where we were really just starting to scratch the surface to get a sense of what is the community's desires for this fantastic bike park project. Next slide. So we brought a number of graphics and boards to that meeting. We met with in person and we kind of solicited feedback on a number of different parts of the bike park. So we brought a lot of inspiration, precedent imagery regarding the bike park features, as well as the gateway features that lead you into the Chip Ross Regional Trail Network. We asked you to prioritize which of these features were important to you. We wanted to zoom out and look at the regional trail system and get feedback on that, as well as access and accessibility issues at the site that's been chosen. We also did a thorough site analysis to give people context of the opportunities and constraints, as Travis mentioned. And we looked at everything from slope and gradation, where the flatter areas of the site where certain possibilities can be imagined, as well as the steeper terrain where the bike park trails were going to be located. And then we also started to dig into some incredible existing bike park precedents for, again, further inspiration in how we approach our site here today. Next slide, please. So this is the feedback that's kind of been crunched, the data we collected from everyone at public meeting 1. And as you can see, the number 1 priority that we heard from the community was for restrooms. We also heard that the larger picnic area and the shelter was an important aspect of this project. Parking improvements were deemed necessary. Service of water for all the thirsty bike riders and trail runners. Lighting, repair stations for the mountain bike population, improved wayfinding, and then of course, bike parking. Next slide, please. So in terms of the bike park amenities, we heard that people wanted the all-season paths, lighting, shelters or weather refuge, integrated art into the bike park, gathering areas, viewing areas for the action, boardwalks and bridges, and power service. Next slide. I think Chris, you can take this one.
Yeah, thank you. So here is what you all told us was important to you for trails. First, having a paved pump track was very important because it is a total kid magnet. We've all seen videos of pump tracks crawling with kids, and it's awesome. We love it. We want to do that everywhere we can. Jump lines provide for airtime, and having one allows riders to quickly improve on this important skill. As an example, in the last 3 weeks, I visited my local jump line 7 times. So they are quite addictive and quite fun. Gravity trails allow riders to challenge themselves and improve their descending skills, a very important component of riding for many folks. And skills courses or bike playgrounds foster progression in a low-risk environment. making them especially good for skills clinics and summer camps and that type of programming. And then lastly, all season trails and features are not really their own thing necessarily, but more of a construction method that allows for riding outside the dry summer months. We live in the Willamette Valley. It rains a lot. So we want to make sure that this site, this park is open to riders for as much of the year as possible. Next slide.
All right. So that was community meeting number 1 back in April, and May 29th, we had our second public meeting. Great turnout. This is where we were able to actually start to bring some concept options to the public and kind of gauge people's reaction to different scenarios and how they might play out on the site. The next slide, please. Chris, back to you.
Yes, thank you. In the second community meeting, the city and the design team presented 2 potential designs. These designs were not an either or proposition, but more a way for us to query you all to better understand your priorities. So the foundation flow option on the left focused on helping people progress from beginner to intermediate. At the center of this was a green asphalt pump track, and this was supported by a gravity skills area / bike playground for classes and clinics on the far east side of the site. Lastly, the design had both green circle and blue square jump flow trails, but in this scenario, this design, only the pump track was to be all season. The wild terrain option on the right focused on mimicking trails found in the Pacific Northwest so that people could take the skills they learned here into the wild, so to speak, on backcountry trails. The design had a wider range of progression with green circle through black diamond trails. There were more all-season trails, but crucially no pump track in this design option. The layout used the unique terrain to provide longer, steeper technical gravity lines and engaging jump flow trails. And it still included that gravity skills area / bike playground on the east side. Next slide, please.
All right. So another piece of content that we brought to the public meeting was this potential bonus opportunity to actually expand the bike park program beyond our site property lines. So just at a high level, it's important to note future city projects and roadway expansion efforts with the future 29th Street connection and future Kings Boulevard connection that you can see on those white dashed lines below. One really amazing opportunity we have with this site is to essentially be the kind of puzzle piece that provides a linkage between Timber Hill Natural Area and Chip Ross Park. And so by leveraging our site as well as these future roadway extension efforts, you can see how this connectivity could be accomplished. And another potential benefit with this route is it would alleviate a bit of the burden on the parking lot for our site, because it just gives people another access option from the south of the site to the bike park. And Chris, I'll let you talk about the bike trails.
Yes, so this option, expanding beyond the property, as Taj noted, proposes the extension of blue square and or black diamond trails down from Chip Ross Park and down into Timber Hill Natural Area. So these would be steep technical gravity lines and rely heavily on rock armoring to provide a durable, challenging ride that matches the landscape. This adds more riding experiences outside of the main site. As Travis noted, we don't have unlimited acreage on the site, so expanding outside of it really increases the value that this bike park can provide. And then those expanded return, there would be expanded return trails that would allow folks to get from the bottom of these gravity lines via bike or pedestrian access back in to the site. And those are the trails shown in purple. Next slide.
All right. And so we brought some very specific questions to the second public meeting because we really wanted to gauge y'all's reaction to the 2 different bike park concepts, as well as how important you felt the bonus trail connections beyond our property lines were. So we got a lot of great feedback. And if you go to the next slide. Chris, do you want to speak to this one?
Yes, thank you. These were both somewhat surprising and not surprising. So the foundation flow didn't rank real high by itself. There was clearly not enough there for everyone. And so either both or the wild terrain was preferred. And perhaps not surprisingly as well, but very helpful for us. The pump track was very important for a majority of folks who responded, and that is no surprise. And that indicated to us we needed to provide that. And then also very important to provide the all-season gravity trails. As I mentioned, living in the Willamette Valley, we really want this to be around and rideable and good shape for more than just 3 months out of the year. Next slide, please. The trail connections beyond were also helpful in enticing folks to come more frequently, just providing more opportunity, more riding opportunity. A majority of folks who responded said they would be more inclined to come more frequently if they were those connections. And yes, they would absolutely use the return trails and climbing trails to get into the park. And that makes a lot of sense. If you lived in those neighborhoods, south, southwest, southeast, and maybe you didn't have a car. Maybe you're under the age of 16 without a license. Maybe you can't afford a car. Maybe you don't want to pay for gas. Those are all great reasons to not have to drive to get into the site, which is otherwise more difficult if these connections are not provided. So this was great feedback that again, providing these connections would entice people to use the park, but not use the parking, which of course can get crowded at peak times. Next slide, please. So based on all the feedback from the second community meeting, here are the preferred features from you all. A green circle asphalt pump track. So again, that is focused a little bit more on beginner riders and certainly not on intermediate or expert riders. This is kind of the gateway mountain biking activity. A skills course for a range of abilities with an emphasis on green circle features for beginners. Again, we're thinking about programming, summer classes, that type of thing. We really want to make that inviting to beginner riders. All seasons trails and features, so the bike park is rideable more than just in the summer months or late spring through early fall. A green circle and blue square jump flow lines, again, rated very highly, always very desirable. And then topping that off with blue square and black diamond gravity trails. So very wide span of skill levels, more so than either of the two individual designs that we had originally proposed, again, based on your all's feedback. Next slide, please.
All right. So for those not familiar with the site, we just wanted to throw up this existing conditions plan. As many of you know, Lester Avenue terminates into the current existing gravel parking lot. You can see that there's trail connections coming directly into that gravel lot up to Chip Ross, as well as our site boundary is shown here. The approximate 4.8 acre site is shown. So we're showing existing trees. Part of our project effort involved a thorough environmental analysis to understand where the sensitive environmental areas were in our site. So we have 2 small wetland areas mapped out that you can see there on the kind of central left side of our site property. There's some open drainage areas that you can see there in light blue, a small pond, seasonal stream. And then there's also a seasonal stream creek on the right side of the plan with a county riparian area noted. So this is what the site looks like today. And if you go to the next slide, we have our preferred concept plan. So here we are. Took a while to get here, but we're excited to present this to you. So a lot of this should look familiar. We have so what I'm going to do is just kind of take you on a tour of a high level what the landscape design is providing here and talk about some of the kind of shared amenities that we're bringing to the site, and then let Chris get into all the bike park features. So we have the parking lot improvements that you can see on the top of the plan. Because we're essentially doubling capacity of the parking lot, we're going to be kind of moving some of that parking lot area into Chip Ross. So you can see we're proposing an upgraded trailhead and kind of trailhead renovations on the top side of the plan there. We're ensuring that all of the trail connections to Chip Ross are preserved and enhanced. And then as part of the parking lot improvements, we have the entry plaza. So I'm going to kind of go into each of these areas in more depth, but the entry plaza is where we have the accessible parking. we have restrooms, we have our picnic shelters and all the shared amenities that I'll get into in more detail. Regarding the parking lot, we know how essential that was. If you've been to that parking lot, it does not work too great at this time. So we, during this process, really landed on this idea of a one-way angled parking configuration. We think that will optimize vehicle circulation and really create a safer environment for folks entering the site. There'll be space for trailers to pull out, drop-off space, and accessible parking, as I noted. In conjunction with the improvements, we've also looked at how can we go beyond the existing wetland areas and really truly enhance the environmental character of the site for the wetlands, the riparian area, as well as the oak savanna. And so you'll see in the bike park, we really made an effort to integrate the environmental character of the site with the bike park features. I'm going to go through, if you go to the next slide. So this gives you a sense, basically it's a section cut, and you can see in the lower left corner, basically cutting through the site and looking east, you can see the upgraded trailhead on the left side of the page that will be perched over the new parking lot. Then as that parking lot levels out, you get to the entry plaza area, and that's the flattest area of the site. So we really sought to leverage that flat area for the restrooms, the picnic shelter, the accessible parking, as well as the pump track, because all of that stuff needs a relatively flat area for its installation. And then on the right side of this page, you can see the mountain bike trails. So topography is our friend. As you know, with mountain bike trails, we need that grade to get the action. If you go to the next slide. So as I mentioned with the parking lot improvements, it's a gravel lot now. We're proposing asphalt paving to really create a nice all-weather surface for people to use. Again, we know that people are coming with trailers, so we want to make sure that that's accommodated with this angled parking configuration and providing a wide turning radius apron so the people with trailers can get in and out easily. We're also ensuring that fire trucks, emergency vehicles can route up through the site, turn around easily, and exit the site back to Leicester. The environmental aspects of the project are important, so we're looking at ensuring that all of the stormwater from the parking lot is managed at the surface, and so using that sustainable approach to stormwater management, as well as planting tree canopy in the parking lot as well. Next slide. So as we know, this is going to be a shared use park space. And we also know that in order to have a great park, you need great gathering areas. So I already started to talk about some of these, but the trailhead improvements are essential for the gateway into Chip Ross Park. So at the north side of the parking lot, that's where we have the improved trailhead. We see this as kind of being not only the trailhead signage information, but a shared plaza area with picnic tables so you can catch your breath, take a rest before you get out on the trail system. The entry plaza is absolutely critical for the project. This is where we have our covered picnic shelter, picnic tables, the restrooms, as well as some informal turf seating that would be a place to hang out and watch the action at the pump track. All of the amenities that people have been calling for the duration of this project will be included. So the bike repair stations, the bike racks and bike staging areas, making sure that we have site lighting, both at the parking lot and the entry plaza for safety and security, and also just extended use. And then, of course, water service with the drinking fountain and additional trailhead signage so people know where they're going when they're at the entry plaza and how to tie into the Chip Ross trail system. Next slide, please.
Hey, Taj.
So, yeah.
Sorry, I just want to mention to everybody that the pictures are just kind of to give examples. So like the picnic shelter, that's not an actual picture of the picnic shelter we plan to put up there. Those decisions haven't been made yet. We just provide the pictures here to help people back kind of better understand what we are proposing in those areas.
Yeah, good point, Travis. So these are just further inspiration imagery. So as we get in design, we like to use the images to help inform our kind of detailing and design moving forward into the construction documents. So not only are we looking at gathering opportunities at the trailhead improvement as well as the entry plaza, but site-wide throughout the bike park. So on the bottom left and right corners, we're showing the idea of overlook platforms. Because there's a lot of topography on the site, these are fantastic points of catching a view to the territory beyond our site. And these are also just the spots at the bottom of the hill where people can kind of wait for their friends to catch up. the overlook platform in the bottom left corner would also be that launch off point to those future trail extension efforts down towards Timber Hill. As we know, I covered the wetland areas and seasonal creeks that run through the project. So we're excited by this idea of bringing in the boardwalk system to get over those kind of wet, sensitive areas. We also see those boardwalks as potential opportunities for pulling off the bike trail and just, again, having a place to sit and check out the views, check out the wildlife. And then also just informal gathering areas at the bottom of the gravity trails. So we know that's going to be a heavily used site, and that's a spot where you can wait for your friends and family to catch up to you at the bottom of the hill. Get the next slide, please. All right, and back to the environmental enhancements. This is something we're particularly excited about. So Chip Ross Park has gone through an extensive oak savanna restoration effort, and we see our site as an opportunity to continue this goal. So part of the project effort is going to be to remove invasives out of the site and plant native species, as well as a number of native oak trees within our project boundary. So you can see the proposed trees highlighted in the plan here. As we noted, we are excited to expand and kind of enhance the wetland area that you can see in the shaded green area on the left, as well as enhance the character of the riparian area, the shaded green area on the right. And what we're really excited about is how this can support an incredible mountain bike park experience and create a really immersive environmental experience for the mountain bike riders. Next slide.
Great. Here are the details for the bike park trails themselves. So working from left to right, first we have blue square and green circle jump flow trails. And on this graphic, all of the dashed lines are all season lines. So you can see that we added in a fair number of all season lines for a variety of riding. So directly adjacent to the entry plaza that Taj mentioned is a medium-sized green circle asphalt pump track. And that is, again, focused really on newer riders, getting them familiar with cycling in a non-flat environment. Below the center of the parking lot are blue square and black diamond all-season gravity trails. And these trails are connected via a series of climbing trails shown in purple. At the far east end of the site is a progressive skills course / bike playground for a range of abilities that is not detailed here specifically, but we'll show some precedent images in just a little bit. And overall, this is a really awesome opportunity. This is a very comprehensive design that reflects a lot of the feedback we received from you all. It really packs in the action, never a dull moment out here. And it really does create a major hub of mountain biking activity in town. And this is a place where I think we can meet the vision laid out by Director Pettit, where new riders can rub elbows with seasoned shredders. You'll have adolescents, you'll have families, you'll have old dudes like me. It will be very inviting to a wide range of folks because the amenities are there and because the trails are here. So next slide, please. I'd like to go through the details of these particular tracks and trails for you all. So we're doing this so that we can ensure we get feedback from you all that is very accurate to what we're envisioning to the greatest extent possible. And so we are using, as Travis noted, some images, examples of other locations that we envision being similar, but these are not exactly what will be necessarily built here. So thank you, Travis, for bringing that point up. So first is the asphalt pump track, which will be more than just a basic oval design. This pump track will be targeted to newer riders learning the basics of mountain biking. So if you're riding on a bike path, there isn't as much of a need to pump and to lean your bike, but on a trail, it is a critical skill to maintaining control and to eking out that hidden flow within the terrain. In a pump track, riders use their upper and lower body to pump the bike to gain speed and maintain momentum. And the asphalt surface, while not mimicking most trails, does allow the pump track to be used 12 months out of the year. If there's snow or ice on it, probably not a great option, but if it's wet, that's fine. Provides amazing traction. And that surface does make it a lot friendlier to kids' bikes. A lot of times, smaller wheels, 12-inch wheels, 20-inch wheels, BMX bikes. So it's very inviting to not only a range of entry-level riders, but to the bikes that we would typically see those riders on. Next slide, please. The skills course / bike playground isolates specific mountain biking skills such as braking, balancing, jumping, or lifting the front wheel over obstacles. The compact nature of these areas allows for quick laps. You could do 10 laps in an hour. Little kids will probably do 20. And that's where practice makes perfect, right? So we're doing this repetition to allow folks to really focus on one skill and master that skill. So features typically include those shown on the slide, with things like skinnies, ladders, drops, and rock armoring, helping folks gain skills and confidence on their bike. These areas, as I mentioned, are also great for clinics and classes. Coaches can provide feedback that can be immediately repeated. This area is also very defined by natural boundaries, and we hear from coaches that they like that because kids don't wander off into various areas. They can keep an eye on everybody, or a parent at the top of the hill can make sure that their kid is within their sight. So a great opportunity, will be very heavily used by a lot of different folks as they're trying to hone their mountain bicycling skills. Next slide, please. So there's not a plan that I'm aware of for the city to install a chairlift at this park. So until that happens, everyone is going to have to get themselves and their bike from the bottom of the trails back to the top. So we do that via climbing trails. These are also called return trails. They do this in an efficient manner and without having to worry about riders going back up the descending trails, because that is very dangerous. The climbing trails also teach skills such as uphill cornering, which is a necessary part of most backcountry trails. Experience has also taught us that while some folks will pedal their bikes back up to the top, others will push up the most direct route to be most efficient with their time. So for this reason, we have some direct push-up trails, such as the straight one next to the gravity trails in the eastern third of this graphic. Next slide, please. Jump flow trails are unique to wheeled equipment. Bikes allow riders to unlock the fun and efficiency of stored kinetic energy to temporarily break the bonds of gravity. So using skills learned on the pump track, on a jump flow trail, riders can unlock that flow of descending without pedaling to loft off tabletop jumps or go high into berm turns. Most backcountry trails only have occasional jumps, but having a jump trail for practice allows the repetition that is so critical to successfully mastering what can be a difficult maneuver. And because jump flow trails are particularly desired by intermediate riders, the blue square line in this design is proposed to be an all-season trail. That could mean an asphalt surface, wooden lips, soil amendment of crushed rock, or some combination of those to keep it from getting muddy, to keep the lips in the desired shape, and to allow folks again to ride it for as much of the year as possible. Next slide, please. Gravity trails are another way for riders to unlock the fun and efficiency of a bike sitting atop a hill. Riders use momentum to help them navigate features that would otherwise, frankly, feel impossible in the uphill direction. Features include such things as rock armored sections, roots, steep segments, and drops. For this site, the gravity lines will focus on intermediate and expert riders who might typically find these trails and these types of features on backcountry situation, and in fact may seek them out in the backcountry. Fortunately, the nature of gravity trails makes them good all-season trails with rock, wood, and other materials deployed to make them both challenging and durable. Next slide, please. And then lastly, all-season trails. As previously mentioned, there are many ways to make all-season trails depending on the type of trail and the targeted skill level. These include asphalt for pump tracks and flow lines, rock armoring and wood features for skills areas and gravity trails, and soil amendment for climbing trails. I think it's worth mentioning that not every all season trail will be able to be ridden every hour of every day all year round. Some all season trails may be too technically difficult when really wet, but that means that they dry out more quickly and do become rideable more quickly when they are made of more durable materials. As a bonus, those all-season trails, as I mentioned, are more durable, which reduces maintenance that would otherwise be required on trails composed primarily of soil. And so this is a very important facet that we talked about early on. We can't expect endless maintenance. This area will get a ton of use, and we want it to be in as good a shape for as many people as often as possible. Next slide, please.
All right. That's our show. And I've seen some great questions already come up in the chat.
Yeah, right now we have one that's unanswered regarding the length of trails. And in terms of the flow trails are longer than the gravity trails. Obviously, the gravity trails are going straight down the slope. Those flow trails, somewhere in the range of just under a quarter mile in length is kind of what we're targeting. We'll be working in the more detailed design, upcoming design phases to look for the opportunities to stretch those out, but also make sure they're meeting the grades because those trails we work with a certain slope to make sure they're appropriate to the skill level.
I have some numbers for you, Brian, if you want me to
Okay,
share.
well,
Yeah.
I have them too. I'm just if you wanna,
Okay.
yeah, if you wanna go for it.
Meredith, can you, there should be one more slide
Yeah,
that
if you
will
go to
show
the last slide.
the last slide will show the skill level. Might be a little more illustrative
There
for
you go.
people. Thank you.
So I just did some real quick calculations so people get a sense of the scale. So that green flow trail that you can kind of see on the left and center part of the plan, that's showing at approximately just over 800 feet in length. The pump track for reference is about 200 feet in length, the loop around the pump track. And then the gravity trails, the blue and black, are approximately almost 250 feet in length. And then also the skills course, if you kind of go from, what's nice is we have that whole east side of the site for the skills course area, and that's approximately 230 feet from kind of top to bottom, as well as almost 100 feet wide in that area.
Yeah, Tosh, can I jump in there real quick too?
Yeah.
I'd like to address something about that, and that is in a bike park. Those of us who are mountain bikers and other trail users, are used to using two basic metrics to kind of analyze an experience, and that is trail length and vertical gain and loss. And I don't think that is a particularly appropriate metric in a bike park. Because we're going to put in 800 within this 800 lineal feet will probably be about 2 miles of trail features on a typical backcountry situation. So, you will be huffing and puffing from anaerobic exertion by the time you get down to the bottom of one of these trails pretty quickly, and then it's a couple of minutes back up at the top and you're hitting it again. In a situation like this, it'll be pretty easy to bang out 1,000 vertical feet in an hour, doing hot laps. So I think that that it's, I would, I guess, caution folks to not be concerned about what sounds like a little bit of trail length, because we will be making these what we call hyperkinetic. There's never a dull moment on these trails. So you really will be packing in that experience and focusing on that skill work and be able to do frequent laps to get in that desired experience that most people will seek.
Do we have any other?
Yeah, there was a question, Chris. I was responding to it, but I'm gonna stop and hand it over to you. There was a question that said, "Will the trails be bike only, or will hikers be permitted?" And I think we know the answer on the downhill, but in terms of the climbing trails, what's your perspective typically on that? Do we allow hikers on those?
Yeah, thanks. That's a really good question. You're right, because when we look to negative interactions between trail users on multi-use trails, there are many factors around that. The volume of users is always a big one. Sometimes it can be speed differential. And so frequently between pedestrians and bicyclists, many common complaint we heard is that there is either hikers are startled by cyclists going too fast, or cyclists are annoyed that hikers have wrecked their flow. So we eliminate that problem in a bike park by making the downhill direction trails bike only, downhill only. You can't ride a bike up that trail either. So it's bike only, downhill only. And the purple trails, the climbing trails, are bike uphill only, pedestrian multi-directional, because typically a cyclist is be going 3 to 6 miles an hour, maybe. Some of the hammerheads out there might be going a little faster, but the sight lines are wide open. Everybody knows to expect bikes. So it really does reduce a lot of or it manages expectations appropriately for pedestrians who are on that trail. But that is a decision to be made by the Parks Department in consultation, with the steering committee members.
Yeah, and similar but different question. There's a question asking if certain e-mountain bikes will be allowed, and I would assume that would refer to pedal assist, not throttle assisted mountain bikes. And then a question regarding if the pump track is just for bikes, or if the pump track's for other wheels like skateboards and scooters and that sort of thing. And I think that's probably a question for both Chris and for Travis and Meredith, if you guys have some thoughts on that.
Yeah, I'll just speak to the practical application there of that second question. There should not be any functional reason that other wheeled devices, non-motorized wheeled devices, would be allowed. The pump track is designed to handle skateboards and scooters. It's not like there's a coping edge that'll get harmed or things like that. But it's a programmatic question, absolutely, to again, the Parks Department and the advisory committee members about how to address that.
We would welcome as many wheeled equipment up there as possible on the pump track. The whole idea, as the goal state, is to get as many people up there and introduce them to the bike culture and allow them to utilize the pump track. So I think we'd probably lean on Chris and your expertise when it comes to the pedal assist on formulating a policy around that.
I did see a comment on the scale of the pump track that I think would be worth addressing, just because that was such an important part of our design. The pump track, this site is very steep, and so part of the challenge is finding, the flatter area where certain things work better. So as we know, the steeper parts of the site work really great for all the flow trails and gravity lines. The pump track, we needed to find, we're basically leveraging the flattest area and we're maxing it out. Making the pump track bigger, there's two things. One, it's a budget question. So we're going to, as Travis said, really get into kind of fine tuning the design based on cost estimating and budget available. So the pump track is one of the more expensive features. So the bigger it is, the more expensive, but also the more expansive it gets, that would require extensive site walls. And therefore you could picture, 5-8 feet that this pump track is sitting over the bike park the further you go out. So what we were trying to do is just strike that balance. And I think as we move forward in the design, I think it's a really good comment about having different turns. And I think that we can explore, once we really start to fine tune this, can we kind of start to kink out the pump track so you get turns in both directions, as you route through the pump track.
Yeah, and Taj, I think it's important to point out that we haven't designed the pump track yet, and so we've sort of suggested a pump track like shape on an area. And so as the project continues to develop, we'll be working with Chris and possibly some other outside folks, to look for the best opportunities to take advantage of that space, work with the natural features and make it something that's fun, but also kind of works with what the site is providing us with.
I just want to say, from Park standpoint, what we've experienced is that the site really doesn't lend itself well to a full-size pump track, as Taj kind of mentioned, and you kind of always want to leverage the advantage of your site to create a unique bike park, right? And so it was pretty interesting if you look back through some of the public outreach we did. You know, if you look at the survey, pump track is way out ahead of everything. I mean, it's like number one, the number one choice, and also the number two choice, right? So it was out there. If you looked at the outreach from the second public open house, there was probably a little shift in audience. I think we got some like of the really hardcore mountain bikers who really kind of preferred to just not do the pump track there and leverage the verticality of this site, right? And so what we've come up with here with the approximate size, we hope is a good compromise between the two, because we need to meet our goals to for all skills level. Um, and we also wanted to leverage the site. So I think the design team came up with a really great compromise there, fitting in the pump track, a smaller version of it nonetheless, but fitting in the pump track and fitting in some really great vertical up and down trails.
So there's a question regarding who will have primary safety and security oversight of the facility. And just saying that there's a perception that the BMX park is a little rough these days. And so based on the location of this and that parks will be responsible for it, can you speak to the strategy here?
Yeah, I can jump in here. So primarily it would be Corvallis Police Department, and we have a really great relationship with them. So when we might have a park that's seen misuse, we're able to sort of target that through extra patrols as requested. So I think the difference here that we're anticipating is just the location within the city as a whole. And proximity to other services in other areas. So, recognizing that, yes, the BMX can have certain type of activity currently, I think that that's in large part due to proximity to services provided, in that downtown core. So, while we don't anticipate it, we certainly plan for it and have those conversations in the design process. And making sure that we always kind of stay vigilant and keep our eyes on it. Our park staff will also be out there regularly, keeping an eye on things, and we're able to sort of adjust how much patrol or how much staff time we need to place on certain areas as a result of how it's being used, and that kind of ebbs and flows. We see things change. It's a very dynamic situation that we deal with in all of our parks.
And there's a comment that was added just regarding lighting, and if lighting is added, that it should be conscious of light pollution and dark sky compliant, given the natural context of the site.
I just want to say on that comment, obviously we'd be looking to that, but also it's mainly to help in the shoulder seasons where you can kind of still ride. The weather's still good, but the light isn't quite there. So we will likely have lighting, but definitely won't be on all night. It's just kind of meant to extend that timeline a little bit on the shoulder seasons.
And there's a question regarding the follow-up question to that says, would this be open at night? Seems like a great opportunity for night riding. Travis and Meredith, what are the typical hours for Corvallis parks?
Our typical hours for parks are open till 10 p.m., but obviously that's not real conducive to a space that's not lighted. So we haven't really dug in too much to opportunities in terms of lighting for actual night riding. I think that's something that we can at least have a better understanding of, kind of the costs and the implications of what that might look like. But yeah, we haven't dug into that too much, but I like the comment. I think it's worth a discussion.
And I think there's a healthy contingent of folks who will ride with lights on their bikes and push into the dusk and beyond.
Jenna had a comment about the parking lot further up in the chat. Wondering if you could address that.
Let's see, what was the question? How far up was it? Or if you want
It's
to
at
read it.
7:36 p.m. Would love to hear more info about the size of vehicles being planned for.
Mm.
Hoping to maximize the skills trail space over a parking lot. I know that we need one. Just want to make a plug for using the existing Chip Ross area as much as possible to maximize the space available for the new bike park.
Yeah, great comment. And of course, parking is always, a critical aspect for these types of projects and always something that we need to strike a balance with the recreational opportunities. Um, the site is extremely steep, and so the parking lot design was actually spent a lot of time trying to figure out like where that balance would land. But part of this is we know that already the parking lot is constrained with just Trip Ross there. And so what we've been seeking to is at least double the parking because we know how popular this bike park is going to be. And by limiting, again, finding that balance and having a limited number of parking stalls, what we don't want is people to have to come up to the bike park, it's full, and have to turn around and go home. So again, it's that balance. Um, One issue with Chip Ross and what we have done is we have expanded substantially into Chip Ross, and then we're showing that where we're showing the upgraded trailhead. The further we go, that grade is getting steeper. And so what we also need to strike a balance with is the height of the walls that we want around the parking lot. So right now the walls are set approximately anywhere from 4 to 8 feet. But the further you go up into Chip Ross, you can picture those walls becoming quite large, which also will have disadvantage to the budget, meaning less bike park features if we're extinguishing the budget on walls. The question about the size of vehicles, so it's angled parking. The parking stalls are size for standard vehicles with a little bit of extra wiggle room, as we know people are going to be coming with lots of big rigs and trucks and such. But really, the stalls are size at kind of a standard 9 foot wide, 18 foot long stall depth for standard cars. We did make sure that that we had provisions to provide 1 or 2 extended stalls that would provide an avenue for vehicles with trailers to pull in and not be blocking anyone. So provisions for that as well. So again, it's similar to the pump track. It's all about finding that balance where we can optimize access to the site, make sure that we have enough budget, left over for all the recreation goals that we're trying to strike here as well.
And Taj, I'll just jump in that
Yeah.
those angle stalls, they help us a bit because they provide just a little bit of extra length for, folks that are carrying bikes on a hitch rack. And so you have a little bit of, little bit more maneuvering room than if you had a 90-degree, stall that you're trying to get out to, and you might have those overhanging a little bit more. There was a follow-up question regarding the parking rules for Leicester, and I'm going to send that one to, I think, to Travis.
Yeah, so you're correct. You often see people parking on Leicester. They are actually parking in a bike lane. So technically, there is no parking on Leicester. So unless something changes with rearranging the bike lane, there would be no parking on Leicester. It has been on my my to-do list for a while now to kind of reach out to the church and see if maybe there's some way to have a cooperative agreement to utilize their overflow parking. They have a pretty large paved parking lot, but they also have a large gravel parking lot, and see if there's some opportunity to utilize that as well.
There's a question in the chat about the shelter that we're showing, and if a shelter like that would be able to be reserved for parties and events and that sort of thing, or if it would just be open all the time for users. Any thoughts on that one, Travis and Meredith?
We haven't made a decision on that. I think it kind of depends on what that ends up looking like in terms of size. If it's on the smaller size, it may not be something that we'd want to reserve for exclusive use. But if it's a bit larger, then there may be opportunity there. So we don't know yet, but that's kind of a consideration that we would make.
Okay, and we just for a little bit of context, in terms of the work that went into the concept, we found that in some of the example bike parks that we've studied or visited and used, you know, that the covered space becomes very popular with the riders, especially when it's, you know, hot weather. It's a great place to be able to get out, recover, take a break, and then get back on the trails. And so typically what we found is that those types of shelters tend to be open, but to Meredith's point, you know, if it's large enough that someone could actually rent it, could be something to be considered. Let's see. Looks like there's an offer to connect you. Okay, Travis, you got it. These are great questions and comments.
Great.
Yeah, and we're able to kind of get the transcript of the chat here, so we'll save the questions and comments and make sure that we revisit those as we move through the next phase of design to capture all of that and you know, start talking to people on some of those other questions too.
So there's a question about says, will we be able to contact somebody to set up bike events and educational stuff? Would that be a Lacey eventually a Lacey conversation?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we will definitely be having those programming conversations. And we do a variety of arrangements in terms of programming, whether that's renting it out for that purpose, partnering with and contracting with that, and or you know, even having our own staff kind of do some instruction and programming. So there'll probably be a variety of options in terms of programming, and I think events is another area that we'll definitely try to explore. What are the options there?
Sounds like Aaron wants a root garden in here somewhere. Chris, I think you're already on that, right?
Yeah, I've been. So Aaron made a point in the last meeting that you know, I've been talking about how the skills areas can sometimes, or a good goal of skills areas is to replicate the riding that you would see on backcountry trails, so that you can be prepared for it and be more successful and you know, composed and more energy efficient in your riding. And Aaron, you know, was a little less impressed with the British Columbia backcountry slabs I wanted to put in there, and was more interested in seeing some roots, because that's what there's a lot of. And folks on this call who have ridden Mary's Peak, for example, know that real well. So yeah, Aaron, I've been scratching my head how to make that happen in a durable way. But yeah, that could be interesting. My biggest concern is that we'll do it and I'll get it wrong and people will hate it. So yeah, and yes, of course you do like slabs, but we can't have it all, man. Roots to slabs. I got some precedent images. We can do that.
We'll keep thinking about this.
There was a question about how to keep updated on the project, which Brian kind of linked to the project website. So if you're not familiar with the project website, there is a link there. There's a ton of information on the project at the website. We put a lot of time into it. If by chance you forget to grab the link, or if you want to help us spread the word about the project, if you just Google Corvallis Bike Park, it's the first hit you get on Google. So, and then check our social media, our Facebook, Instagram. We provide regular updates on that, on the project. And then my contact information is also on the website. So if you ever want to call or write, it's there. And please don't hesitate to reach out. Meredith, can people donate money? You want to
Yeah,
take that one?
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, you know, we are looking at ways that we can encourage the community to support the program and the project. I think for us, you know, we have plans to go for a grant. We have the ability to utilize what we call system development charges, that are funds that are collected at the time of development throughout the city from other projects. for the specific purpose of expanding our park system and making improvements in parks. So from a capital expense standpoint, you know, we're working that angle. I think where we'd love to be able to incorporate sponsorship or donor opportunities is to collect funds for that sustainability aspect and that sustained maintenance and management of the park into the future. So there's creative ways that we can do that, and we're definitely going to dive into what that looks like and in ways that people can get involved. I would just say stay tuned, everybody. Keep tabs on the website. We are working really closely with our marketing team to make sure that anytime there's an announcement to be made or a progress step, a milestone reached throughout the project, we'll be pushing that out to the community. So as long as you're staying engaged and keeping your eyes and ears open, keep tabs on, I know a lot of our advisory committee members are out there in the clubs and in the bike shops and things like that. So we'll be utilizing them to also help spread the word when we do have more information to share.
Great. All right. Well, thanks everyone for attending and for the wonderful questions and feedback.
Yeah,
And
really
can't-
awesome. Thank
yeah.
you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a
Great.
great night.